I'm going to share with you 7 changes I've found in Eli Tomac's training program from 2013 until now, and then how you can take those things and implement them into your own training and racing, even if you can't ride every day like Eli, even if you can't train multiple times a day for hours and hours. So this is an old video from Rhino Power on YouTube, and it's just a session of Eli and Ryan doing training together, which is quite a good video showing you what Eli was up to at the time. So if you have a look at the training that they're doing, they're also doing a fair bit of it's like balance work on the ball, it's like core work, and then it's weight work all combined into one exercise. The great thing about this type of training and exercise that they're doing is it's high intensity. So this was something that has become more popular now, but especially back in 2013, this type of training definitely wasn't too popular at all, and was probably relatively new. This is when you had your CrossFits and boot camps and circuit training started to get going, probably since 2010. So it was great to see him adopting that quite early on. The reason that this type of stuff's good is because it keeps your heart rate high for a long period of time. And so when you're out racing, so especially for Eli, if you're doing a half-hour plus moto, your heart rate might be at 150, 160 plus for a very long period of time for all the way through that race. And that's what the high-intensity training does. So anytime that you can incorporate circuit training or interval training to keep your heart rate at a high level for a long period of time, it's going to have a great level of transfer over to your racing. So that's the first thing that obviously that he was focusing on at the time. The other thing that he's focusing on here is obviously there's a bit of balance, and the balance with the ball is contributing to the core work. And that was obviously a big focus at the time for him with the style of training that he was doing. One of the things that used to be a common saying, which I don't hear people say as much anymore, is you've got to have a strong core for racing, got to have a strong core for racing. You do, but the problem is you've got to get your core working with the rest of your body. The way they're training here, and as we get into it, I'll show you what more of what Eli has been doing at the moment, or what he's said that he's doing. And a lot of this stuff is based on balance and core work. And so the problem that I have with this style of training is, apart from being a higher risk of injury because you've got weights in awkward positions and you're stepping up while you're not even looking where you're going, and a whole heap of other things, the main thing that I feel like needs to be worked on is the strength side of things. And that's the thing that we work on with our races, is the stronger you can get a rider, the lighter the bike feels. The lighter the bike feels, the less energy you use when you're riding. Okay, now, obviously this is not strength specific, this is more cardio specific. But in terms of using the core and using these kettlebells up there, I just feel like there's a lot better exercises that you can use that are a lot safer to help to build your core strength. You could hang from a bar and pull your toes up to up to the bar. Okay, there's hollow rocks that you could do on the floor. There's V-ups that you could do. You could do leg extensions lying on a bench. I just feel like they're a lot safer options for most riders. Maybe for his level, these are okay and keep him excited with training. But for most riders, it's just going to be something that's going to be, it's not worth the risk of doing these types of exercises for the benefit that you're going to get from them, especially when there's other things that are a lot easier to do that can get a similar, if not better, result. The other thing is also the balance side. Personally, I'm not a big fan of balance training for racing, because I feel like with racing, yes, balance and coordination, all that is important, but the thing that affects those the most is fatigue. So you're better off focusing on getting rid of the fatigue and focusing on what's happening there. Do you need to dial in your nutrition? Do you need to get better with carb loading? Are you eating enough food? Are you eating the right types of foods? Are you doing the right type of training? Are you doing the right types of exercises? Anytime you can minimize fatigue, your coordination and balance is going to be 10 times better. It doesn't matter how much balance and coordination training that you do. If you're still getting fatigued out on the bike, then it's not going to be that helpful. The other reason I'm not a fan of balance training is because a lot of your balance is going to be built from all of the riding that you're doing, especially for someone like Eli. He's doing a lot of riding. He's on the bike a lot doing skills and drills. He's building a lot of balance and coordination from doing all of that stuff. I just feel like you don't really need it. Extra stuff on top of that in the gym that's not as good as all the bike time that he's getting anyway. And then again, the takeaway from that is, if you're training during the week and trying to get better with your racing, spending a whole heap of time doing balance work and coordination work during the week probably isn't the best use of your time. The best use of your time is probably getting your body a lot stronger and getting it a lot fitter so that it can perform better on race day. So ultimately, instead of improving balance and improving coordination, what we're doing is we're reducing fatigue, which is helping your balance and coordination to be consistent all the way through the race rather than dropping off like that. And that's going to get you a better bang for buck for if you can only ride once a week and you can only get in the gym 3 times per week. Obviously, again, like a lot more core stuff. It's very, very core and balance dominant training. Just from what I can see from this session, it might be a core and balance session, and I'm just extrapolating that out to all the training. But from what I can see, it's very core dominant. Yes, your core is important when you're riding on the bike, but your core's working with the rest of your body. So what we do with our riders, like in the faster lap system, instead of doing isolated core work and smashing the shit out of their core, we give them exercises that challenges their core with their upper and lower body at the same time. So think about like a back squat. A back squat gets you using your core a lot, because if you don't use your core at all with heavy weight on your back, you just collapse and fall over. So your core is being worked a lot. But it's also getting your legs working and your upper body working exactly like it is on the bike. Same with like a deadlift. So that's why we use those exercises rather than using like specific core exercises. And again, the races that we're working with are not professional races. They're races that work during the week. So time is a factor. They don't have 3 or 4 hours a day to be able to do absolutely everything and hit all bases. We need to give them the stuff that gets them 80% of the way there, because that's all they've got the time for. So again, more kettlebell stuff. Again, a lot of high intensity stuff, which is great. That's what you want for helping with your racing. So there's 2 types of cardio. You've got the cardio that's like your long distance cardio system, which gets your body good at like moving for a long period of time. And then there's the other cardio system, which is responsible for you when you have high bursts of like all out energy and focus, and then rest quickly and recharge, and then go out again, all out energy and focus, and then rest again. And so when you're on the track, like a motocross event for Eli, you've got a mix of both. You've got like a 30 or 40 minute moto, and then within that 30 or 40 minute moto, you've got different parts of the track that require different levels of effort. So you've got some parts of the track that like the whoops might require a lot of effort, really physically demanding, going through the sand. But then you might float through the air over a jump where you get a bit of rest. Then you land and you might have a lot of braking bumps, so it's very physically demanding. Then you might go around the corner where you can sit down and have a bit of a break, so you rest again. Then you're up on the pegs again, going over acceleration bumps, and then, getting ready for the next part. So the intensity, although your heart rate might be very high, the level all the way through, the level of effort that your body is giving is always changing. So kettlebell swings can be great, a tool for conditioning, but that's pretty much most of this stuff here. So if we hop over to the next video, article, and this is from Muscle and Fitness. So I don't know when it is. I tried to find the date, but I can't find it. So obviously it's got him with all of his pictures in Yamaha, so it must be relatively recent over the last couple of years. So it's probably like a 10-year gap from what he was doing before. From what I read in this article, his dad, John, is doing all of the programming for him now and putting together his workouts and training. So he chats a little bit about his training here. So he says, I do a mix of training. There's always a cardio day, but then there's a mix of general strength training also. It's not super heavyweight. It's more higher rep workouts because you want to be efficient. You don't want huge muscle mass in a sport, but you want to be efficient, and that helps you cardio-wise with not being too heavy. There definitely is a balance to it. And he's exactly right. So obviously, look at the weight of his 450. Might be 100 kilos. And then he's got his weight on top of that. He might weigh, I don't know, let's say weigh 75, 80 kilos, right? So that's a total of 175 kilos that he's got to be able to wrestle around for a 30 or 40 minute moto for the pro motocross, which is a fair bit of weight for a long period of time, especially on tracks like Southwick where it's very sandy and very physically demanding. So he's got to have the strength there to be able to wrestle the bike around, and then also have the cardio, the endurance to wrestle the bike around for the 30 or 40 minutes at a time. So the strength training is something we didn't really see with that previous video. Like, it was very cardio, high intensity based training, and then lighter weights, like with the dumbbells. I wouldn't even class that as weight training. It's really just cardio. So that looks like it's a new addition to the training over the years. And I think that's probably a couple of things. Is number one, he's a bit older, and he's a bit older. He's riding the bigger bike, the 450, whereas before he was racing the 250 and he was a bit younger. But the other thing is, just in general, the knowledge in strength and conditioning has come a long way over the years. I know when I first started coaching races and getting them race fit and working on the nutrition and the training, I used to talk about strength training all the time because I knew it was something that could help races. I wish it was over my 14 years of racing. I wish it was something that I'd used, but I didn't. And I was doing the opposite. I thought I was going to get big and bulky, exactly like Eli's saying here. And so I used to talk about weight training a lot in 2015 when I first started coaching. And I get a lot of criticism for that on social media because people would say, you're going to get too big and bulky, you know, like all the pros cycle and use light weights and, you know, just do cycling all the time. But now, like over the last recent years, you see like Jet Lawrence, Hunter Lawrence, you've got like Chase Sexton, Ken Roxon, a lot of those top guys, you see Levi Kitchen, all in the gym doing training, like lifting weights, actually in a proper gym. So it's come a long way. And the same thing happened in the NBA, I think I've talked about in other videos. Back in the 80s, NBA players in basketball didn't want to touch weights because they thought it was going to put their jump shot off and affect their training. Whereas now all teams have a strength and conditioning coach and assistant strength and conditioning coach, and all of them lift weights, which is crazy, right? And it's just the progression of the sport, the progression of the knowledge that's there. And it's a healthy sign for the sport because it's saying that things are improving. Even the same thing with like riders having sports psychologists and people that help them with personal development and the mindset side. That thing's relatively new in motocross and supercross now. But if you go back 10 years, wasn't something that was talked about or too common. So that's the training side. That looks like one of the changes. So obviously not as much focus, not as much mention here of like core work. All of the stuff before was like very, very core orientated. So that was one of the changes. Balance work is something that also wasn't mentioned here. So maybe not as much of a focus on that now as has been previously. High intensity training. So he talks about here on the day after riding, he'll do a little bit of everything. He'll start with a warm-up run and then he'll go to the gym. I'll do an all-around body workout. I really don't separate body parts, so I usually do a full body workout. Then he'll finish with cardio. It could be on a bicycle, and that's usually a big day. During the preseason, he'll do 3 workouts per day, and that'll be a run, a gym workout, and then a bicycle ride afterwards. So the takeaways that I got from there is when he's saying he doesn't separate body parts, what he means by that, or what I'm assuming he means, is he doesn't do a typical bodybuilding program. When people think gym training, generally what they think is oh, I've got to do arms today and legs today, and then back this day, and then core that day, and isolate everything. But that's not how the body works on the bike. The body doesn't work in isolation. So when I'm on the bike, and I'm riding, my bicep isn't just working by itself, right? But riders will go to the gym and do bicep curls and just train it on its own. People will also go and do like tricep extensions. But when you go on the bike, your tricep isn't just working by itself. Everything's working together from head to toe when you're riding. And that's what makes riding and racing so hard. So if we jump over to Eli's like Instagram here and we have a look at like say one of his photos, you can see here everything's working. He's got his legs working, gripping onto the bike. Okay, he's got his upper body, his elbows up. Everything's working together. His core working, his ass working. Everything's working together. We can have a look at this. This might be a short clip here. Again, you can see everything working. Look, like legs working really hard there, okay, to be able to go over the braking bumps. Upper body working hard to keep him in position. The whole body's working together. So that's why you don't isolate body parts. But what that means is that doesn't mean you go and do curls and tricep extensions and legs all in one session, and then that means that they're all working together. What you need to be able to do is use exercises that get all the muscles working together in one exercise. So like a deadlift uses all of those muscles, a back squat, bent over rows, even bench press. Your whole body is working together and keeping really tight and in a specific position. And that's what's happening when you're on the bike. So that's what you want to replicate with your training. So the other thing there, the other change, so we got core, we got balance, we got high intensity stuff, which we talked about. No strength stuff before, what didn't look like from what we saw anyway, unless that was just an isolated conditioning workout. But strength is relatively new for the riding and racing world over recent years. Has been a little bit more mainstream with the top guys. The other thing here is we scroll down, he talks a bit about his food, which is something I just couldn't find anything on before. He was very, very lean in that video. I feel like he's not that lean anymore. So let's, where did he talk about his food? Food. Here we go. So from a diet standpoint, he's saying, I don't set a calorie amount, but I try and eat clean. So no junk food. There's certain guys that works for and guys that doesn't. I can just go with how my body feels, but the most important thing is that I'm eating clean. which is cool. Great. So that's not something that was mentioned before, but obviously that video wasn't on that. But even with the other detective work that I did, there wasn't much on how he was fueling himself before, even though he was really lean. So he may be pumping a bit more food in now, and more than likely he is a bit heavier to help him on the bigger bike. Clean eating works really well for guys that are very in tune with their body. So generally athletes who have been focusing on eating well for a long period of time, or even like personal trainers who are obsessive about, not obsessive, but like enjoy doing all of the food side and the training and figuring out how their body works. So like for me, I've been in this world I did my 14 years of racing. And then after that, I've done 14 years now of being in the strength and conditioning world, and 10 or 11 of those which have been coaching. So when I look at foods, I know roughly how many calories are in certain things. I know what's higher in calorie and lower in calorie. I know what macronutrients are in certain types of foods. And I don't need to pull up an app to do that. I don't need to research it because I've just done it for so long. I can just look at things and know. It's like an intuition. It's just a general knowledge now. But if you haven't been doing that for 14 years, okay, and you haven't obsessed about it and been all nerdy about it, and you're not a professional athlete or a strength and conditioning coach, you're not going to have that intuition. And so that's where the tracking is important. So personally, I don't track my food, but I can still keep myself lean. I can lose weight if I need to, or gain weight if I need to. But for our riders, when we're coaching them, we get them to track their food and at the very least take a photo of each meal and put it into our app. Because what that does is that gives us the information I need, or the information our team needs, to be able to coach the rider and get them eating the right types of foods and help them with their calories. If they're not tracking it in some form, it's impossible for us to be able to help. If we just say, hey, eat some meat and veggies, which isn't that helpful. You could say that, you could give simple advice to someone like Eli, because again, he's got that intuition. Whereas for most riders, they don't, and that's what they need to learn to be able to dial in their food. So that was something that was different. The other thing that was different is he talked about here is protein drink for recovery right after a race. So again, it's like with the supplements and nutrition, things have really stepped up over recent years. Again, like back in 2015, I used to recommend to riders to have protein shakes after they have a race. And the common thing that I get was like, oh, I'm not going to get too big, I'm going to get bulky, like I'm not trying to put on muscle. And that's not what protein does. What protein does is helps to repair your muscles after they've been damaged. And they become damaged by going to the gym and pushing them hard, or riding your motorbike and pushing them hard. When you get that soreness in your body, that is your muscles being broken down. So you want to give them protein to be able to help recover. Protein shake or drink just makes it easy for your body to digest, because your digestive system is going to be shut down and not working very well after a race, because your body's been in a high level of stress through racing. So if you give it a steak, probably not going to be able to stomach it and get the protein. That's where the protein drink comes in. Easy to stomach, easier for your body to get the nutrients it needs to be able to recover. So that was something I noticed that was a bit different, that hadn't really been mentioned before. And the last thing that I saw as well, which definitely sport in general has come a long way with, is recovery and using different types of recovery. If you go back 10 years again, like it's not something that was really focused on or talked about. But here he says, I'll do like cryotherapy or some ice treatment. You try and do maintenance on your body throughout the season. We're doing 17 races in 18 weekends, so recovery and maintenance is important. And since this might have been before SMX, so now you've got like Supercross, you've got motocross, and then you've got SMX. Like I think they've only got 2 or 3 months off, and then it's just racing just about every weekend for 9 months straight. So recovery is really, really important. And so you can use systems like cryotherapy and ice treatment. But again, for him, that's great because he's probably got, number one, he's got a fair bit of cash so he can do what he wants, but he's got the resources and the time to go and do those things. If you're racing on the weekend and you only get to ride once a week, and you might have some off-season stuff because it's snowing or because it gets too hot, and then you can only do some gym stuff a few times a week, doing ice baths and cryotherapy and stuff like that is probably not the best use of your time. You're probably not doing enough training and putting your body under enough stress to need high levels of recovery like that. If we go back up here, he was saying how many times he trained per day, and he was saying like sometimes he was, during the preseason, I'll usually do 3 workouts per day. Like if you're not doing 3 workouts per day, meaning you don't work and you train, you do at least 1 hour sessions per day, then you probably don't need to be looking at doing cryotherapy and ice treatments and the higher end recovery stuff. What you probably need to be focusing on is getting in the gym and doing some exercise and putting your body under enough physical stress in the first place to actually get better. You're probably going to get more benefits from that and working on getting your 8 hours of sleep every night than you are from spending 20 minutes driving down to the cryotherapy place, spending half an hour down there, and then 20 minutes back. You spent wasting an hour and a half of your time that would have been better off in the gym doing some proper training. Same with ice treatment. You're going to waste your time going down to the petrol station to get some ice and then coming back and then setting up the bath and doing all of that. You would have been probably better off using that time to actually train and get better rather than spending it sitting in a bath full of ice. So that's that there. I just wanted to make a couple of comments here. Like I know he said with, doesn't want to put on muscle mass. Just a distinction for you guys, because he's probably had this distinction already, but it's just not being explained very well here. Lifting heavy weights doesn't make your muscles bigger. The thing that makes your muscles bigger is doing isolation bodybuilding type training with excess calories and extra food. Okay, so if your training is made up of like a leg day, an arm day, a core day, that's a good sign that you're doing a bodybuilding training. Okay, and you're doing exercises that are designed to get your body bigger and muscles bigger. Those muscles, they use those exercises and then your muscles grow if you're giving it extra food. Okay, that's the only way for you to be able to get bigger. If you starved your body and did that style of training, you wouldn't actually get bigger. Okay, so it's down to the food in terms of whether you actually put on mass, lose mass, or stay the same. So that's why if you use exercises like deadlifts, back squats, bent over rows, overhead presses, they're great exercises that spread the load of the exercises over heaps of muscle groups, rather than just smashing the shit out of one muscle group and breaking it down and then it comes back bigger. And again, you just got to keep your diet in check. Talks a bit about the exercise bike. You can see him here riding, and I thought this was a cool insight. You can see him here warming up on this bike. Now, he's probably sponsored by these guys, whoever they are, because they've got a fair few bikes there, and that looks like an e-bike. They're pretty expensive bikes, right? So they're obviously on display there because there's some level of sponsorship, which is great. Not great for you guys, though, because you see that and go, okay, cool, that's what I've got to do. So a little cheeky way of finding out what Eli actually does to be able to help him warm up, rather than what's on display for everyone to see, is I had a look. He recently posted up a picture of his van for sale. This is his personal van that he's paid for himself. As you can see, there's no, this is not like a promotion for marketing or something that he's been given to promote. This is what he's paid for and got made for himself because that's what he feels comfortable with. And that's sometimes where you get the best insights, because when these pro riders get to the top, sometimes it's hard to tell what's actually real and what's not. What's the stuff they're actually doing and what's the stuff they're just telling you because that's what they're getting paid for. So if you have a look in his personal bus here, we scroll through. Interesting to see the piece of equipment that he has in there. So you can see it's not a new piece of equipment. It looks like it's had a relatively hard life. It's got red spray paint on it and the wheels look like they've taken a fair beating over the years. Even the ends of the handlebars look like they might be coming apart. However, what you can see from that is it's what we call an assault bike. What an assault bike is where you've got your pedals and legs moving, but you've also got the arms moving backwards and forwards to help with the bike. The reason that's an important distinction is because that's warming up his whole body. That's getting his arms and his legs warmed up. So if we go back to where we were before, here, that's obviously only getting his legs warmed up. So it's really important that you want to get your legs warmed up and your lower body warmed up as you go into race day. But that wasn't really part of what we're chatting about, but wanted to be able to mention that anyway. As always, if you'd like some help getting race fit and dialing in some of these things that we've found into your own training, then you can apply for our Faster Laps program. I'll put the link in the description or in the comments. Otherwise, hopefully you enjoyed this video and got some insights from it.